So nice straightforward topic now, leadership styles. It looks like there's more than there actually is for this presentation. But what's quite interesting about this topic is it's really straightforward, but you do tend to get essay questions asked on it. So, you know, kind of 8-mark kind of questions comparing two different leadership styles. So firstly, just a few notes about leadership and management, and are they the same thing? So sometimes we have leaders and we'd say that they aren't always managers. I'd say that a lot of these people here, you know, if you're running a government, you would actually have to manage some people and manage departments. But say you were kind of like a leader, like a revolutionary leader, you wouldn't necessarily be running a business. So we tend to say, oh, they're a leader as a bit of a compliment, and a manager is more to do with the day-to-day actual jobs rather than how the person views that leader or person. And obviously, you know, some people don't like their managers and they wouldn't call them leaders. This is a picture taken from a really good sitcom called The Office, and it was quite a short-lived sitcom. I think it only did 2 series and a few Christmas specials, probably a few clips. This clip is available on YouTube because I've just watched it and it is hilarious. But have a look at that if you can, because there's some really interesting business concepts that go on in The Office, especially in the first series. But a famous person that spoke about or wrote about leadership and management was Fail, and you'd definitely study him if you went to university and did management. But he thought that a manager should kind of predict what will happen in the future, plan to achieve the objectives and organise the resources, command staff, coordinate and monitor. So these are all things that we'd recognise from a manager. Whereas leaders may do those things, but they're also meant to be visionary, and they're meant to be good at kind of helping you to change and inspiring you to change, and motivating those around them. So some of the traits that we'd say leaders need to have are the ability to motivate and solve problems, and they're very focused, very much the qualities that we said that entrepreneurs need. They have this responsibility and personal integrity. They may be self-motivated and quite confident, and they have a vision. They have a goal of what they want to achieve, and they have a plan of how they want to get there, and they can't do it all on their own, so they need to kind of recruit people to help them achieve their goals. Okay, so that's just an overview of management and leadership. Now onto the bulk of what an essay question would be on, the different styles of leadership. Okay, so first one I'm going to go through is autocratic, and I've picked some photos that I think represent these types of styles quite well. So autocratic just means that the manager, the leader, gives orders, and they expect people to comply with those rules. They don't really take anybody else's opinion into consideration. They come up with the idea, and what they say goes. So an advantage of this is you get really quick, I don't know why I put a capital letter there, sorry, really quick decision making, and that's pretty good if you're in a crisis situation or your business is going through a rapid pace of change and you just need someone there to make the decision and be decisive. You're not particularly worried about what the decision is, we just need someone to make the decision. Disadvantages, I'll have to get rid of that D again. Disadvantages are it doesn't allow other people's opinions, and some of these opinions might be really good. They might be really experienced people that work for you, they work under you, and they have very detailed knowledge of what's going on in certain sectors, and they can really help you. So it's not really tapping into those skills, so you may be missing out on some great ideas. And also, if you feel like your opinion is not taken into consideration, you may become demotivated as well. So that has an impact on productivity, labour turnover, all of those types of measures. And I've got to get rid of that D again. And as I said before, it's appropriate in crisis situations where you just need a really quick decision made. And it's also appropriate, I suppose, with less skilled workers that maybe aren't as knowledgeable and do need a bit more supervision, and they just need to be told how to do it. But I don't think, if someone said, oh, you're a very autocratic leader, I'd guess that they're not paying you a compliment at all. So we don't tend to think of autocratic leadership as a positive, really. Okay, democratic. Here we have our houses. The House of Commons in the Houses of Parliament. In the UK, obviously, we have a democracy, which means that we have a say in electing our leaders. And a democratic leadership style for a business would be where the employees' opinions are taken into consideration and a collective decision is made. There are different forms of democratic leadership styles. You don't need to go into all the details of those, but sometimes it's more that their opinions are taken into consideration, whereas sometimes it's actually them making the decisions. So I wouldn't say, everything would be completely democratic. Some people, some minor decisions would just have to be made, but the big decisions would be collective decisions. So really a good advantage of this is employees feel valued, and you may get some really good ideas. So productivity, creativity, new product ideas, all of those things. But decision making really takes a lot longer than it would do in an autocratic system. So you'd have to have quite a stable environment for you to be able to take that long over decision making. And I'd say that this decision making is appropriate, or leadership style is appropriate, where you have workers' cooperatives, which is from Unit 1. Maybe where you have equally skilled people working in the organisation, so there's not just one leader. You probably haven't come up to the organisational structure presentation yet, but when you do watch that video, if you do, you should, it's really good. There's an organisational structure called the independent structure, and the democratic style of leadership goes with that structure quite well. It's where you have people, maybe like in a GP's practice or a solicitor's, where they're all similarly at the similar level, all kind of maybe skilled in their own areas. So they're bringing expertise for their own areas. Okay, bureaucratic here, computer says no. Bureaucratic is where there's rules and there's regulations and there's a kind of set way to carry out a task, and people shouldn't, and they're not encouraged to stray from that way of doing it. Okay, so where do we have bureaucratic? Why do we have it? Well, you do, from following these rules and regulations, you do produce a very standardised product, and so customers know what to expect, and that's good for kind of, I'm just thinking about if you go to McDonald's, you have a very standardised product. That's really good. Usually with bureaucratic, though, we do imagine that there's quite a bit of paperwork that goes with it. Bureaucratic coming from the French word bureau, which means office. I think it's from French. I don't know. You might need to check that, but that's what I think. However, it offers little flexibility and little ability for the workers to adapt the products to meet people's needs, and there's a lack of empowerment as well for employees, and that could lead to demotivation. Remember, empowerment is one of the motivating factors from Hertzberg. But it's really important that you do have quite a bureaucratic process in terms of legal processes. You have to have a standardised procedure. I'm just thinking of like employment law and those types of things, and also when you're following health and safety. I've got a little story for you. I was at a bar last night and I overheard a conversation that took place next to me, and someone had ordered a drink and the barman had forgotten what the drink was. They'd forgotten the order completely, and the person had gone back 10 minutes later and they said, are you making that drink that I wanted? I ordered it, and the barman said to the woman, I'm so sorry, I completely forgot. And the woman said, don't worry, not a problem, just give me buy one get one free to make up for it. And he said to her, I wish I had the authority. And I thought that was a really interesting phrase. Firstly, because I've worked in a bar before, and to be honest, if you made 2 drinks rather than one and you gave one for free, I doubt anyone as a manager would actually even notice. But not that you should do that. Obviously it's wrong, but I thought, well, you probably could get away with it if you actually wanted to do that. So what a weird thing to say. But what I thought was that it was a kind of missed opportunity, because actually this customer had been really put out, and this was a new bar that was opening. They were trying to impress customers and build up a customer base. And I thought, how silly to kind of squander that opportunity because the barman is following the rules so closely, because they could have, if they'd have just adapted their approach and said, okay, that sounds fair, that sounds reasonable, and they'd have given a kind of buy one, get one free deal, I think that customer would have been really impressed and would have thought, you know, this is one of my new favourite places to come. They'd have told their friends, they'd thought, this is a fun place, this is a nice place to come to. I get good customer service here. As it is, the customer's going to go away and say, actually, it took a really long time for the barman to make my drink, and they forgot about it. And they didn't really do anything to compensate other than just say, oh, sorry about that. So I thought, you know, that's a real issue of maybe the processes being a little bit too strict, a little bit too bureaucratic, and not allowing your employees to have a little bit of empowerment and a little bit of discretion over decision-making processes that could have, you know, been in the long run very profitable for that business. Okay, so the last style that you need to look at, I love this photo, Laissez-faire, and it is a style which has few rules and regulations, and employees are very much trusted to get on with their own work. And the advantages of this is not that you can make a little hammock in your staff room, but that it allows a lot of creativity, and you can, I suppose, you know, you can think outside the box, and it allows you a bit of discretion over decision making. This is what that barman needed a little bit more of, really, because they could have, you know, found a really good, appropriate solution to the problem. Your disadvantages, though, it does require very dedicated staff so that they don't do things like this, and that they're very much trusted to get on with their work. I think a lot of the technology companies, Google and Sony Entertainment, follow these processes. I worked for Sony for a little while, and they obviously, as you would imagine with Sony, they have PlayStations, and they have like fun stuff in their downstairs foyer. I think they actually even had a bar, and they had like lots of free food everywhere. And you think, well, why do they put all these distractions here? Yeah, you know, why do they do that? And Google as well have lots of really nice things there, like free food, and they have the sleep pods, and they have massage rooms as well where you can get subsidised massages. You know, why would they put all these things to distract staff? And it's because they think that actually treating your staff well and giving them a bit of discretion over when they do the work will increase productivity. So it is quite an interesting approach, and it seems to work well for them. But what you're looking at there is a company that relies on creativity, and they have very skilled workers as well, the people that work for those companies. Did I mention I used to work for one of them? The people that work for those companies are very skilled at what they do. I was maybe not as skilled as some of the people that work there, which is maybe one of the reasons I don't work there anymore. No, I was doing some project management with them, and it was very interesting. This approach is only appropriate for where you have very skilled people that are very self-motivated and dedicated. Okay, one of the things I'd just like to point out is that these leadership styles aren't necessarily, you know, okay, if you've got this type of business, this is appropriate. If you've got a different type of business, this is appropriate. They're actually, these leadership styles might be appropriate for different departments within the business. So I think a bureaucratic style works really, really well if in your HR team. And then you might want a more laissez-faire style in your research and development team, possibly, because, you know, at good ideas, you can't say, right, we've scheduled in, you've got to come up with a good idea by Friday. You know, it'd be very hard to do that. And then you might need a more bureaucratic style, maybe among your senior managers to make decisions. And then you may need a more autocratic style, or something a bit toned down, maybe not too autocratic. You might need that, you know, on the shop floor, if you have maybe part-time workers who, you know, maybe they're at university, maybe they're at college, and they're not fully dedicated to the job. Maybe you need to take a possibly a little bit more stricter approach with them. So I think you could have all of these leadership styles within one business, and that might be appropriate for them. Interesting thing is to link it to McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y. So Theory X is much more along the lines of an autocratic leadership style, and Theory Y is much more along the lines of more democratic leadership style, and a more laissez-faire, possibly, leadership style, because you trust your employees, you know that they want to work, you just have to give them space to work. So maybe Theory X is possibly a little bit more bureaucratic as well, because it's a little bit more controlling. So long presentation there, but do have a look at the past paper questions. Nice 8-mark questions that have come up before. on that.